Hey everybody, it's Erin Reed, and today we are going to make some candles. The first step I'm going to do is I'm taking these little candle holders, little votives that I got at the Dollar Tree. I have a trio of them, but really any kind of glass jar would work. I have taped them up with some vinyl, and right now what I'm doing, and I just did different designs. This one, it's just the bottom. This one is just the top, and this one is the middle. I'm etching them with etching cream to add a little bit of interest to my actual glass jar. These would be perfect for little gifts. This is a little kind of a summer or a spring, kind of a something cool and fun. We're also going to be adding flowers to this and dyeing our wax with paprika to give it a beautiful orangey color. Very, very summery, very spring, just very fun. But the first step we got to do is we got to add our etching cream. This is from Etched, and as always, all the supplies will be down below. So I'm just adding a very super generous amount of the etching cream right to where the glass, a clean glass, I made sure that it was nice and clean, and then letting it rest for 15 minutes. The next step after the 15 minutes is taking off the etching cream, removing it, squeezing it. It's reusable, so you can put it back inside the jar, and then wiping everything clean and removing the vinyl, making sure it's all nice and dry. And then my cups, my glasses, are ready to add in all of our stuff to make our candles. So that part needs to be done. Magic of movie making will be ready in a second with that. So at this point, I had let it sit for 15 minutes, removed all of the etching cream, and put it back inside my jar to reuse again for another time, and then just went in my sink and washed it. And careful with the sink with etching cream, it will also etch porcelain. I have a stainless steel sink to prevent that. All I'm going to do now is I'm going to remove my vinyl, which is going to go into the trash. So here you can see I've pulled them off. We've got a top-ended, a bottom-ended, and a middle. And so just with some simple vinyl, and just to add as a mask with the etching cream, you can turn any little glass into something really cool very easily. And then now you can add it in, and these make awesome little gifts. All right, so our glasses are done, they're etched, they're ready to go. Now it starts time to do candle making. The first step I'm going to do is I am going to take my Gulf wax, paraffin wax, or whatever kind of wax you would like to use to help create your candles. There's beeswax, there's soy wax, there's all kinds of stuff. Whatever you're going to do, you want to heat it up. Now I'm doing a little bit of a different method, mostly because I don't have a special candle making system, but I have a Scentsy. I have one of those heating tools. So I'm using that. I'm just placing a whole bunch of small pieces of the wax inside, cutting it up inside here and letting it heat. Now, is this going to take a little bit longer than some of the other methods? Definitely, but it's what I have. So work with what you got. You could also do a double boiler method, and you could use a stainless steel pot and double boiler and melt it down that way. Lots of different ways, but whatever you're putting your wax into is not anything you'd want to then use food with. So keep that in mind, which is partly why I'm doing this, because I don't have any non-food items to heat up the wax. We are going to be putting some flowers into our candles. So we went and got some beautiful flowers. We picked them, and so we're going to pick off all the petals. So Catherine, you're here. Want to say hi?
Hi.
So we're going to pick off all of the petals. So what I'm doing right now is just kind of,
I'll take
you want to do one?
I will take this one.
All right.
Because this one is going to be bigger petals.
Yeah, and so we're just removing the petals and placing them in the jar.
I'm going to take the petals and make them smaller.
So all of these beautiful petals we're just going to place in here. We went with all the colors that were yellows and reds and oranges because the scent we're going to use is going to be orange. We're going to dye our wax to be a color of orange. So we're actually using paprika to dye our orange. I'm going to show you how we're going to do that in a minute. So we're kind of keeping with that orange theme, orange color, oranges and reds and yellows. There's a little bit of green because it's the back side of the petals of some of the other ones. So we're just removing all the petals right now. All right, so we're just going to put our flowers off to the side. And on my craft mat, I have some paraffin wax, or I have some parchment paper, and I have another craft mat down here just because we're dealing with waxes and stuff. And the flowers, as a heads up, they have a beautiful smell on themselves. So as the candle burns, it's going to have this gorgeous smell to it. So now what we're going to do is we're going to prepare our color to go into it. So I just went to the bulk section and I picked up a whole bunch of paprika, which I'll use in the kitchen as well. We're just using a really small amount of it. We're going to place our coffee filter with some of the paprika in here. And I have to be able to fit it within my little boiler I have here on my little Scentsy thing. So we've got that. And basically we're just making like a little Garnier bouquet, kind of like what you would use if you were cooking. So all the color is going to be down here. and we're going to tie it, and then this is going to go in with our wax once it starts melting. Now, this little container right here, once that gets melted and it's got to heat up, it's going to take a little while. It's probably only going to work for one of my jars at a time. So it's going to be taking some stages here, which is fine. All right, so now my little pouch is done, and it's just a little bit of cotton. I'm going to place this in here so it can start kind of coloring, just kind of placing it in there. Once the wax starts melting even more, it'll seep down into it. Okay, so now it's time to start preparing. As you can see, my wax is starting to get kind of loose. It's starting to get a little bit of a color due to the paprika. I've got some little tweezers, and what I have here is I have these little twills of wood. They're like wood shavings that have curled up on themselves. And all I'm doing is I'm placing them into the wax and getting them basically coated in the wax, and then letting them rest onto the parchment paper. And I've got maple, and I have a pine little wood twill, and that is going to act as our stem, our wick, basically. I want it to be a lot taller, so when you pour the wax and you're going to come in and you're going to trim it off later. I'm also taking all of my petals, and my tweezers are getting covered in wax, but that's okay. And I'm placing my petals onto my glass where I want them. Takes a little second. I got to dry, but as you can see, this one's already dried on there. Some of them are kind of falling to the bottom. That's okay. I've got a lot of petals here, but I got 3 different cups I got to kind of fill up. So basically I'm just dipping into the wax and then getting it to stick to the side of the glass, just like that. And then when I pour it, they'll be scattered around and not all just fall into the bottom. If you want to have all your flowers at the bottom, I might do that with this particular, because there's a whole bunch of flowers. I might just fill this whole thing up with flowers. So the other thing you need to do is you need to get your wick set. So I've got a series of little bamboo skewers that I'm going to just rest, and that's how I'm going to rest my wick, just like this, so it sets. And I'm going to tape it so that it's going to be nice and firm, just like this. All right, so now that I've got my wick secured for this one, I'm just going to put a bunch of petals in the bottom of my glass and just make sure that they're nice and evenly distributed here. I'm also going to put a couple of, I've got a little orange, wild orange scent, place a couple of drops towards the bottom of that. I can also add the drops to my wax right here now, so it's kind of intermittent. There's a lot of different ways you can add the scent. So just adding little drops of scent throughout. I probably also add it towards the top as it gets to the top. You just don't want to add too much of it to the point where it burns off. So I'm going to keep preparing all of my wicks, getting them set up like this. This one's ready to be poured. I'm going to add a few more leaves to this one. This one I think I'm going to fill with wax, add some leaves, and then a little bit more wax there towards the top, or some more of the flowers. So just kind of changing up how I'm adding all the different flowers. All right, so I've already poured one, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour the next one, let a whole bunch more wax melt, pull out my little paprika coloring. If you notice, it's got a beautiful color, and I'm going to quickly come in to one of the ones I prepared and pour. So I poured half, and it's starting to kind of set. So now I'm going to come in with a few more flowers. This is going to be kind of seeing some flowers in stages. So that way you can get some wonderful layers. This one's already starting to set up. And while it's kind of loose, you can also come in, and I've placed a little thing in here, you can kind of move your wick around. Therefore, you can set it exactly where you want it to make sure that it's set and firm. So I've got this one nice and tight. I'm going to kind of solidify this one in here, just so, because once it's set, there's no way to wiggle it around anymore. So if you want it perfectly dead in the center, now's the time to do that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and fill up the rest of this one. I'm also going to get flowers, a few flowers in the bottom of this one, just to have a little bit of flowers everywhere, and let them rest. We'll be right back, and I'll show you what they look like when they're all filled. They're not 100% set and dry. They will take overnight to get done, but they're at the point where I can go ahead and pull the pieces off. If you wanted to wait overnight to get everything finished, you're more than welcome to do so. But at this point, what I'm doing is I'm removing my little kind of wick holder situation that I've got going on here. So there we go, pulling that off. And then you can kind of clean up and trim up. So as you poured your wax, you might have spilled a little bit on there. I also went a couple of times and I added a couple of like layers on top. There might have been some bubbles and holes, so it might have dipped down. If you want to keep adding a little bit of wax to the top of what your your wicks are, you're more than welcome to do so. But I'm going to leave mine as is. It looks nice and homey and kind of homemade, and you can see the little hints of the flowers in there, and it's got that orange smell, and it's going to go through and just be beautiful. And all I'm going to do now is come in and just clip. All I did was just kind of clip my little stem there, which is my wick, and your candle is set and ready to go. Beautiful. You can even look at the flowers underneath. Aren't they gorgeous? You can really kind of see them. And as it burns down, those flowers are going to show more and more and more. So this is one where the top part was etched. It was like right in the middle. So the top is open and the bottom is open, and you can really see the etching and the non-etching happening inside of there. This candle is not quite there, but you can see parts of it. I mean, look at the flowers showing up. You can really see them. This is the bottom was the etched, and the top is not etched, so it's a little bit different than the others. I'm going to go ahead and remove this piece from it as well. And for this one, after I poured in, I put some of the flowers at the top, and just you can see them towards the top. Just come in and snip, super easy. And you could just put these in, actually, if you have an outside fireplace or something like that, these would be great to throw into there and then just look. So again, you can kind of clean up a little bit, get them really pretty, and you can really see that etching at the bottom. It just adds that little fun, something extra. So this is one where I added all the flowers. There's a whole bunch that I added towards the bottom. I did spill a little bit of wax along the outside, and so I'm just going to kind of take my finger and just kind of clean that up. It's very, very simple to fix that little oops mistake once it's cooled. They still are a little bit warm to touch, which means that it's not fully set. And could you add more flowers than I did, or more petals? Definitely. You could always add more and just keep layering and layering it up. I mean, there's no end to how much you want to do. For this particular one, this is where we etched the top and left the bottom clear. So wherever there is the etching, it definitely has more of a frosted look. I'm just going to clean off my little wick right here. And this one I did fill up quite higher than some of the other ones. So the height of how you want to build up your candles is totally up to you. So thanks so much for joining me on how to make these candles. Super fun, super easy. Supply links are going to be all down below where you can find these fun items, from how to etch the glasses themselves, the wax, and obviously just head outside to find some amazing flowers for your candles. And I will see you guys again soon. Don't forget to subscribe, and bye-bye, everybody.